Hello, Wobbly Phil here. When it comes to fully enclosed motorcycles, I tend to land myself in hot water with the experts who obviously know much more about these things than a jobbing YouTuber with a broad interest in motorcycles. That said, when did that ever stop me? So let's take a look at the Peraves Ecomobile. Last week I upset a few Aussies by mispronouncing this word.
Weirdmotorcycles.
It's odd because having visited many times, I've always thought Australia was a laid-back kind of place. Similarly, despite fully enclosed motorcycles typically being recumbent, a word which literally means laid back, I've encountered a few proponents along the way that seemed more than a little uptight. Which brings me to the Peraves Ecomobile, or Ecomobile for pronunciation purists, which fairly trips off the lumpen British tongue compared to
Weirdmotorcycles.
I'm indebted to Paul Blezard, a scholar and a gentleman when it comes to feet-first machines, as well as M. Slattery 8710, Patrick Delamay 1087, FF Voyager, Velofish and others in the comments for suggesting the Ecomobile, and while I'm handing out the plaudits, I should have also thanked Fred Tracy 3931 for suggesting last week's video about the Aussie Salt two-stroke. Founded in 1972 by 31-year-old Swiss Air pilot Arnold Wagner, he'd produced a prototype of his enclosed motorcycle by 1982. It wasn't an entirely new concept. So-called cabin motorcycles had been around since the 1920s, and Czechoslovakia, where Peraves eventually set up manufacturing, had a stab at a two-wheeler with Diddy training wheels in the 1930s. Long before even that, in 1885, Daimler's first internal combustion motorcycle, indeed some say the world's first motorcycle full stop, was not dissimilar with its outriggers. Back to the future, and by 1985 the Swiss government had been persuaded to make the Peraves Ecomobile street legal. By 1991 it was street legal across the EU too. 100 were built between 1991 and 2005 when the main factory in the Czech Republic burnt down. Undeterred, Herr Wagner redesigned the Ecomobile, which became the MonoTracer and sold about 50 units between 2008 and 2011.
Erster Platz und 2,5.
In 2009, he designed an electric version of the MonoTracer called the X-Tracer, which won the 2010 X Prize for reaching up to an astonishing 550 miles per gallon equivalent. And with the $2.5 million prize, he began development of an electric version of the MonoTracer, the MTE. By that time, around 12 million greenbacks had been invested in the project, all from private sources. According to this fundraising prospectus, which seems to date from around 2013 or 2014, Peraves was hoping to raise around 8 million Swiss francs, equivalent to about $10 million US, to take the company to the next level, with ambitious plans to ramp up production of the next generation MTE and seek a partnership with a manufacturer from the consumer electronics or electric appliances sector, rather than a traditional vehicle company. The aim was to capture the urban market, placing it firmly up against petrol 125cc commuter bikes. The updated Volts MonoTracer would be able to cover around 5,000 kilometers a year on the power provided by a 2 square meter solar panel. It would be less powerful but much lighter and easier to handle, and would enjoy all the home comforts of heating and air conditioning, alongside all-weather protection of course, as well as safety protection that would negate the need for a helmet. But sadly, none of that appears to have amounted to very much. So we'll have to make do with taking a closer look at the models that did materialize instead. The all-electric MTE boasted a 150 kilowatt or 204 horsepower motor and a claimed top speed of 150 miles per hour, with a range of almost 250 miles, but by the company's own admission was a big and rather challenging motorcycle to ride. It was rather challenging to purchase too, if reports of a sticker price of between $75,000 and $100,000 US were true. But it's the petrol-powered bike that I'm most interested in. It came in at 41 on Time magazine's Top Best 50 Inventions of 2008. But what was it like to ride? Well, let's ask the inventor's wife, Frau Wagner.
You don't feel the speed, really. You feel it much more in a car or on a motorcycle. You can drive over 200 kilometers per hour and you feel very comfortable.
And it remains the only vehicle to have ever left Jeremy Clarkson speechless.
I can't think of anything to say.
With an aluminium roll cage and a Kevlar body, these would go from 0 to 60 in 4.8 seconds, propelled by the 115 horses output by that BMW engine. Now, at the end of all this, you're probably expecting my usual caution of don't bother looking to buy one these days. To be honest, that's what I was expecting too. But no, the company's website still seems active, albeit the inventor, Herr Wagner, appears to have finally relinquished control of the company this year, at the grand old age of 84. And they still occasionally come up for auction, despite being incredibly rare. This example was expected to fetch between £3,000 and £5,000 in 2021. And this 1988 Ecomobile fetched £11,500 at Bonhams in 2017. Speaking purely personally, the Peraves isn't my cup of tea. As I've said before, I much prefer the wind in my helmet. The only advantage I can see over a car is the ability to filter between the traffic jams and park in smaller spaces. In most major cities in the UK, there are motorcycle bays where you can park for free, so maybe it would save you a few bob there. If, and it's a big if, you could persuade the parking attendants that what you had parked there was indeed a motorcycle. But if a bike plane thing floats your boat, that's okay by me. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please consider liking, subscribing, commenting and sharing to let YouTube know we're doing something right here at 3 Fills. Thank you.